Hello everyone, we're back with the BYOB Square podcast. My name is David.
And I'm Josh.
And we're going to talk today about what we think from our own perspective is the problem with middle America when it comes to finances. So that's the question today, Josh. What do you think from your observation of your investments, what you do every day when you talk to clients, is the main key problem that is impacting Americans when it comes to health, when it comes to prosperity, with respect to their financial life?
It's a great question, David. Regarding that relationship with money, I believe it's skewed primarily because we want to outsource our responsibility around money. We're conditioned by many different factors that we should just put money into our 401k, our IRA, let somebody else handle it. And we don't really take the time to learn how it is that money functions, how it's supposed to grow, different investments that we could make. So it's almost like we're afraid to learn about it, and so we don't learn about it. And that ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
A lot of people, even in my family, have taken the approach of, well, my financial advisor said this, so that's what I do.
Yeah.
And I know multiple financial advisors, and it would shock you how many of them have terrible credit, how many of them don't take their own advice. So I think that's a big thing is many people get placed with a financial advisor. They just trust the system and expect it to work, as opposed to really tracking their numbers, tracking their investments, and taking responsibility themselves for the way their money grows.
Which, really quick, not to get diverted, but it applies to you and me. Do not take what we're saying for granted. Challenge yourself, challenge us, go and do some education, go seek some information, look for examples of success, read the right books, and decide what's best for you. I am a firm believer, and I tell every client that I sit in front of, I don't know what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you and your family. And that's why empowering people to be at the driver's seat, be the quarterback in the game, be the man in the arena, is the most powerful you can do to empower somebody to take control of their financials, to take control of their family prosperity. And another point to add to that is, you said the word conditioned. And I like thinking about that because if I backtrack and think about how I handle money when I started working, the decisions I made, a lot of times I cannot remember how I arrived at a decision. As a matter of fact, I cannot even remember deciding.
Right.
I was following a path that was laid out in front of me, matching those that were around me, because that's what everybody did. And guess what? None of those people had the results I wanted.
Exactly.
None of those people had the results I wanted. So I guess from what you just said, I just want to highlight to everybody listening, the main takeaway from what you said is taking ownership of that education, of getting engaged, of getting in contact with their relationship with money is at the core of what we see perhaps is missing in middle America and in general in the American population.
Absolutely. And what I found from my own experience is the people who have made it, the people who have money, they're always willing to educate.
Yeah.
Because they can look at America's middle class and not saying that they feel sorry for us, but they can look at the American middle class and say, I was there and I made it here, and they genuinely want to help others succeed as well. So my advice would be find people who have done it, find people who you like and respect, and who are also sharing the same interests as you.
Yeah.
And interview those people, take them to lunch, ask them how they got where they got. And learn that way. You also want to make sure that you're focused on things that you understand, and you're learning more about things you understand. So I don't know a whole lot about the stock market. I don't know a lot about futures and options and day trading and things like that. So that would not be how I would seek to make money. I understand real estate. I understand dividend paying whole life insurance, and those are my primary tools for growing my wealth and allocations.
Yeah, and that's the power of asking this question, right? What is the problem? Because once we see the monster in the closet and you can clearly identify it and you understand it, also it begs the effort to say, okay, what would be the opposite to that? If your relationship with money is not clear to you, if you don't have a system on how money flows through you that you understand, that you control, that you understand what are the trade-offs of doing one thing or the other, Who holds the risk? What are the terms of anything you're doing in your financial life? The opposite to that is getting close to that relationship and getting more understanding, seeking more understanding, have more education so you can make better decisions. So we continue to ask this question to ourselves, to educate the public, to educate our clients. But please remember that our objective is to give you hope that whatever it is that you feel is a deficiency or it's not there in your life, it's only the seed of opportunity for you to get healthier, better, for you to grow financially. So hopefully, again, this point of the relationship with money is a question that comes to mind. Ask yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Do I have the healthiest relationship in my life with respect to money? Just as I have with my children, my wife, whoever it is, with God. Whatever other relationship in your life, is the conversation I'm having with money the right one, and is it serving me properly? Is it giving me the results I want in my life? So,
right, and jumping off of that is also understanding money and that it isn't evil. There's the common saying that money is the root of all evil. Well, that's a half truth. The true stating, or the true fact there is the love of money, or more so the lusting after money, is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And money is truly good for the good that it can do, and that's full-heartedly what I believe. I don't want a whole lot of money so I could be a dragon sitting on a pile of gold. I want to make and have more money so that I can give more and enjoy the life that I've been given and not have to worry about where my next meal is coming from.
If I may ask a question here, because this is like one of my favorite things of spending time with you is I'm very attracted to the way you think about certain things, particularly when we talk about investments or money. You have a mindset that I crave, which is that anything is possible as long as the deal works, and you don't need the money. You just need to work what deal works, and everything else will come together. And that's a mindset of possibility, and again, that's why manifest in your life by finding the next success and the next success. So contrast to where I observe you today, what were the beliefs of money when you were growing up? Did you grow up with that environment, or have you had to unlearn, relearn new things about you?
My family was middle class, still is very much middle class, and always, working class type jobs. And the general feel from one side of the family was the haves and the have-nots. The other side was, if you want it, work for it and find a way to make it happen. And that's the side I gravitated toward, because the people that have got that somehow. They didn't just win the lottery one day. Very few people who are millionaires or billionaires got that money from a trust fund or from an inheritance. The statistic is so minimal around that. And a great resource to learn more about that would be The Millionaire Next Door, that talks about people who are methodically saving, investing, living below their means in order to have more money to invest and grow for them. And so that's what I really took to heart, was how do I live a simpler lifestyle early on so that I can have more extravagance as that money starts working harder for me. So, Millionaire Next Door, The Richest Man in Babylon, those kind of books I really gravitated towards. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, those different things that teach you about the value of money and making money work for you, as opposed to always having to work for money. And so that was a big mental shift of being able to say, okay, we could live off of just my wife's salary and invest mine. Or we're going to put money aside and maybe we don't go to Cancun, we go to Rocky Point instead because we want to see the beach. But we took that difference of $6,000 and invested it and grew that money and then made that money keep multiplying. So a lot of it is getting away from the keeping up with the Joneses and learning how to save, learning how to invest, as opposed to, I want the new thing. My neighbor got a boat, I need a boat. My neighbor got a new 4Runner, so I need a new 4Runner. So just getting away from that consumer mentality which I think we're also conditioned to have. And I think there's a lot of things within our culture that, so often people will go to Target and just spend $200.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
And I've been there too. It still happens. And I think part of that comes from, we always want gratification. We want things quickly. We want things easily. And when we feel like we're in a slump or, a little bit depressed one day, it's, well, let's go spend some money and I'll feel better.
Yeah.
And that is a temporary high. You like the new things and that kind of stuff. But the next day you're back to where you were before you spent that $200. So, and I'm fully guilty of this. I used to, any store I walked in, I couldn't walk out of without buying something.
Yeah.
And it was a mental shift of, that's not getting me anywhere except becoming a hoarder. So how do I change, my spending habits? How do I say no to the stuff that would be cool and flashy, but isn't going to benefit me tomorrow necessarily?
Yeah.
So, shifting away from the consumer spending to being more of a saver and investor, getting educated about investments, learning how business works, learning how money works, learning how banks work. And that's all helped me personally grow my wealth.
Yeah. And folks, in a few minutes, we're going to go through a couple principles just to, for those of you that like visual learning, just how to visualize the principles we are trying to get to. So in a few minutes, we'll get there. But the reason I asked you this question is because I wanted to hear the language you were going to use to describe this. And it's fascinating that at some point you can stand back and observe, okay, my family has this or this. I lean towards this. I need to be curious about how to go pursue and take control. And then what continued was a journey of growth. Like, how do I educate myself? Which I know that is never stopping. Knowing you're constantly coming up with new ideas and exposing yourself to the right sources of information to continue to grow. So
absolutely,
that's definitely in line with what we're talking about here, relationship with money. And on my side, just to add what you were saying, I had. I grew up in Colombia. I spent the first 20 years of my life growing up in South America, and I went to a Jesuit school. We did a lot of drives to take food to poor families, poor neighborhoods, a lot of integration with the community. And I grew up in a society where I was very aware. Parts of my family were very wealthy, beautiful homes and condos, and then people, that we hear about in the news here in the U.S. living under 50 cents a day. And the contrast is so significant once you get out of the U.S. It certainly becomes clear that money, regardless of how you feel about it, regardless of your belief, is a path to acquire the things you want in your life to have prosperity. Because those that lack it really, really struggle. And then there's also next to them the people that have more than they could ever spend. So I grew up in that environment. I was very fortunate. My dad was a very generous person, always helping his family, always helping the person in need. So I quickly early in my life understood that money was to do two things for me. Either make me comfortable and satisfy my needs, and also extend it to people around me that needed help beyond my presence. So I could use money to protect my family, make myself comfortable, or go serve other people. And that's been a valuable lesson, because the more I grow in my journey, the more I have an inner sense of responsibility to support people that need this education, that need more prosperity, and those that maybe I can help with my own capital. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing. And then the other thing I was going to say is, I've also seen examples of getting obsessed about responsibility. I got to pay my bills. And not understanding how money works, the principles we're going to talk about. The debtor, the saver, the roles we play in the economy is a very interesting trap to observe, because if you really understand and you start making your own conclusions that all alone we have not been taught how money actually works for it to be working on our behalf. So thanks for sharing that. It's really helpful to hear that background there. Another question that comes to mind about this. When you're talking to clients, how would you gauge the awareness from people's discussion about what their problem they're trying to solve to improve their finances is? How aware are families, business owners about how financing in general works for their business, for their family, and how that is a problem or is not for their prosperity?
A lot of families and business owners that understand money see financing as leverage. Others who don't truly understand how money works see financing as debt, which it is debt, but there's good debt and there's bad debt. So good debt somebody else pays for, bad debt you pay for.
Interesting.
So a rental property, my tenant pays my debt. That's good debt. Because it's putting money in my pocket and growing my wealth. So I'm not saying you need to not pay something off quickly. I'm not saying you should pay something off quickly. It's understanding opportunity cost of money. If my car's at 5% and my credit card's at 20%, what should I pay off first? Well, obviously probably the 20%. But what is the balance too? Because there's more than just a percentage equation there. If my car is $1,000 a month and I owe $10,000 on it, or my card is $500 accumulating at 20%, well, yeah, that's growing at $100 a month. But if I could pay off the car faster, then I've got $1,000 more a month to attack that card payment and so on and so forth. So that kind of gets into the Dave Ramsey debt snowball kind of thing of understanding interest rates, payments, looking at, what is my payment to debt ratio and all of that kind of stuff. We could spend we'll probably spend a whole episode
as you all can tell,
that.
Josh is a very smart guy, so he's going to have every example you can think of. But if I can extract a takeaway from what you just said, again, being clear about what is your perception of what you're doing and the trade-offs, right? Thomas Sowell, I love this quote about him. There's no real choices, there's only trade-offs, because every decision you make has a consequence and an opportunity cost.
Absolutely.
And I think the more we can put the guard down and just entertain a new thought, like the thoughts we're going to show you here, the ideas we're going to show you here, we're not saying they're right or wrong for you. We're just saying entertain them and evaluate. Is what you're doing the best you could be doing, or is there a better way for doing what you're currently doing? Either way, you're already engaging in the process of financing anything you do. And in addition to what you said, I think it's really important to also give each of us grace, because the business owner that is working really hard on taking a business and moving it forward, particularly in the past 2 years with all the economic events we've had, you've been focusing your core competency and the widget you produce and the service you provide and the quality of whatever content you're producing. That doesn't mean that you've spent the same amount of effort in understanding how the finance of that business works. And that's when and I've observed this in you quite a bit, that's why being able to go and partner with other people that specializes on these type of conversations, whether it's a tax professional, whether it's a person that can help you set up a system where you control cash flow, anybody that is in that team that can help you free yourself from the other responsibilities and support your business so you can focus in the core and the best you do is going to help you enhance. And it applies the same, what I'm saying, for business owners as it applies for a family. You could be better off from what you're doing. And congratulations, whatever you're doing today, it can only be enhanced. So this is a conversation about hope, about advancement and growth. So with that, should we jump into some of this content and parlay it back to what we've been talking about in terms of relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's understand better the flow of money, how we save, how banks lend, and the true, cost to us and the true benefit to the bank.
Okay.